everybody. Welcome to our Lotus Center All Faiths program. We're happy to have with us this evening for Martin Luther King Day, Scherr. She was born and raised in a Navy family in the United States, where she attended the University of Maryland. She became a teacher of transcendental meditation in Yogaville, France in 1974. She raised her children in the suburbs of Washington, D.C., and then moved to the Synchronicity Foundation in the Blue Ridge Mountains with her young daughter and husband in 1997. So Synchronicity is about 25 miles down the road, Route 29, in Ellisford area. On November 26, 2008, the unthinkable happened for Kia. While on a spiritual journey to India, her husband Alan and 13-year-old daughter Naomi were killed when terrorist attacks attacked their hotel in Mumbai. Kia co-founded the One Life Alliance, an organization dedicated to increasing world peace by raising the standards of behavior in business, education, and government. Loving behavior, applied in daily life as the compassionate antidote to a sense of separation and alienation that leads to conflict, violence, and fear. Kia has been living in Mumbai since 2010 and has been a roving ambassador for world peace. She has worked with the Mumbai police on a customized peace training program and has spoken at conferences all over the United States, Mexico, and India. She's author of The Pocketbook of Peace, a 30-day companion, which outlines 30 positive behaviors to increase both inner and outer peace, and she'll be discussing her book. Let's welcome Kia Scherr.
Greetings to all of you tonight. I feel so privileged to be here among all of you. Really, I can't tell you. It's really warms my heart on this chilly, rainy night. And I'm happy to see all your faces and your smiles. So we'll have a lovely evening together and a chance to share, because I'd like to hear from all of you as well. So when Ruth called and said, "What do you want the title of your talk to be?" Actually, I got that call and I was still in my room. I hadn't left yet to go up to breakfast, and I thought, my mind just started clicking and it just came out, and it was into the light of darkness, a response of love to an act of terror. And that first phrase is, to me, the key to what I've journeyed in these past 6 years. Because going into the heart of darkness itself, back to the place where my husband and daughter were killed, is where I began to experience the light that is found within the depth of the darkness. Because it turns inside out. I got turned inside out. And that is what happened. And it was a unique journey, and I credit my long-term spiritual practice for giving me the soul stamina, spiritual stamina, to be able to weather that, we could say, to weather that storm and have the willingness to take that path. Because I really felt I had no choice, to be honest. That was my survival and my healing, was to go there. So I have some photographs I wanted to show you that highlight just a fraction of some of what led into India, and I'd love to just share some of that with you and some examples of that light that I found, but we needed to start with this story. So this is Alan and Naomi, and they sent this photograph when they arrived and happened to be in their Indian attire. Naomi was 13 years old, her first trip ever overseas or in an airplane. And I was visiting my family, parents, and I have 2 sons, and it was my special trip to be with them for Thanksgiving. And then in 2 weeks we were all going to get back together and share, and I thought, I'll go the next time. That's what I thought. They'll go back to India next year. I'll go next year. This is their special trip. So I was in Florida when all of this transpired. Let me just make sure I see this. Okay. Which way do I point it?
Point it anywhere, please.
Oh, I'm supposed to point it there? Or I can point at the screen?
Oh, you got it.
Oh, this way.
There you
I had it upside down, sorry. See, I'm inside out and upside down and all around. So my last conversation with Naomi was about, it actually is in a nose ring. It was a nose piercing. She had been begging for months for a nose piercing. In fact, she wanted lots of piercings. As you know, they become popular, and all kinds of parts of our bodies can be pierced. So we finally agreed on the nose piercing. So when they got there, they were communicating with the concierge about who could do this nose piercing, and someone that they would recommend, someone they could trust. So it finally happened, and she was so proud of her nose piercing. And it's really interesting how there are all kinds of serendipitous moments that have happened, and one of them, years later, okay, so it just happened this year, so 8 years later, I've been going there for 6 years, but it's 8 years later, I'm giving a little talk on World Kindness Day in a bookshop in one of the Mumbai suburbs that was set up. And so it's Kindness Day, and we're talking, there's a group of about this many people, and we're talking, and then afterward, a man comes up to me, and he said, "Did your daughter get a nose piercing?" I said, "Yes, she did." And he goes, "I'm the concierge." He goes, "I worked at Oberoi. I'm the and you know, we were hugging, and we had a photo taken, and it was just, that's the sort of thing that happens there. And he's very humble. He saved a lot of people. He was the last one out because he was a concierge, and this was in the restaurant, and so the lobby, he had to keep taking people out of the lobby. He had to go back in, take more out, because people were freaked, as you can imagine. And so anyway, he saved about 50 people who were there, and he was the last one out. So he was a real hero. Sandeep was his name. And this was the group. It was about 25 of them from the US, Canada, and Australia. This was their last outing. That day, they went to a northern suburb called Villaparla. And there was an ashram there. And this is Master Charles Cannon, our spiritual director, MC as we lovingly call him. And that's his guru brother, Swami Vishvarananda. So they went to Swami Vishvarananda's ashram, spent the day, had lunch, meditated, chanted, and just did whatever they did there. And it was they all went on a bus. It was a wonderful day from what I heard. And there's Naomi there in the front in her sunglasses. Next to her in the blue is an integral yoga teacher. She came here years back, Helen Connolly. She's Irish, red hair, beautiful Irish woman. And she and her husband moved to Canada for his business, and now she's in Toronto. But she was Naomi's roommate, and she was under the table with them. And Helen was the only one of the four of them that was not actually wounded. The bullet grazed her thigh. They dove under, and Helen started chanting Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. Yes. Now I took this photo from the business center at the Trident Hotel where I stay, which is adjoined to the Oberoi. And this is where the terrorists entered in their boat. They entered this, that's a fishing village there. And it was about 9 o'clock or between 9 and 9:30 at night. And this is in South Mumbai. So that's where they started. Then they got in a cab and drove around to their various locations. There are about 5 locations. There are 10 terrorists, and 2 of them, they split up into groups of 2. So 2 of them were at the Oberoi. We have an eternal flame that burns at Synchronicity and Memoriam, and I included this picture because it's dark. I mean, I look like a different person in this picture, as you can see, and this was taken at the 1-year anniversary, and that actually was much harder for me a year later, because in the beginning I was shell-shocked. I didn't know what I was doing or feeling or anything. I mean, I felt it, certainly the impact hit me, but it was later that it got darker. If we want to use that term, going into the pain of the grief. But compassion saves the day. And when I found out about the news in Florida, we were all just sitting on the sofa, just staring at the TV screen, and the photograph of the lone surviving terrorist showed up. Ajmal Kasab was his name, and it was very simple. I was just there, cracked open, and the words of Christ came, "Forgive them, they know not what they do." And I kind of went, oh, yes. And then aloud I said to my family, we must forgive them, they know not what they do. There's already too much hate. So we must send our love and compassion. And I felt some comfort in that, and I knew that was the truth. Now, forgiveness, that's a whole nother discussion we could have. But forgiveness is a journey, and it's a path, and it's the first step toward healing. It's a step toward healing. And you all understand, I'm sure, about forgiveness much more than most, being a spiritual community. But most people misunderstand forgiveness, especially in cases where it involves a violent killing, because they think we want to, it's somehow condoning the act, or people don't quite understand what forgiveness is. So it took me these years to really understand it, to be able to experience it more fully. But the first step for me was being willing to forgive. And I know that it kept my heart open. That's what kept my heart open. Love is compassionate, and love forgives. And that's what I kept, it's a choice that I kept making over and over and over again. And that's what we shared with, that was the first press conference. Because this was so public and it was all over the international news, and Alan Naomi's photo was there, it did feel like, I was, like I say, I was shell-shocked, but on the other hand, here was a chance to share something really positive in response to this horrific act, rather than just leave the act as it was, which was later declared an act of war, from Pakistan against India, officially by India, but that's how they took it. It was a chance to make that statement to them. And even though they were rather affronted by it, the press, they didn't understand it, but it was still a chance to say we're really in this together. And to find another way to prevent things in the future is going to have to start with forgiveness, because that leads to a lot of other things. Acceptance, understanding, connection. So this was my reaching out to the Oberoi group. I'm standing next to the vice president of the Oberoi group. I went to Delhi first and met Mr. Oberoi himself. He was 83 years old. And because we had gotten all these email messages from around the world, from Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Jews, sending love and prayers. And that's when I personally experienced the world family deeply. And it was transformative. And so we thought, well, let's keep this conversation going. How do we do that? Well, let's create a structure around it. And so this is how One Life Alliance was really formed. It was, okay, well, it's life we all share. Life is what connects us. Life is sacred. We need to honor it in ourselves and in each other. And that was the beginning. That was the seed of that. And so the following year, for the second anniversary, I wanted to invite the Oberoi group to support this and be involved in it, so they could be included in this message as well, and to share it. And I wanted to launch it in India. And so Mr. Oberoi gave his blessing to all of this and said he would support by providing accommodations. And I met the general manager of the Oberoi and Mr. Barma, who's the vice president of the whole group. Shabani Sachdeva was a great friend of that entire group, helped coordinate that whole retreat that they were on. And Bonnie Sullivan was one of the members who was there, trapped in a room during the attacks. And this is in the Oberoi lobby where the picture is taken. And by then it was renovated. And they were very supportive. And we had 12 of our group came And there we are. 3 months later, we filled the Regal room. It was a ballroom. About 450 people came.
Wow.
And we had teachers and college students and people volunteering and all kinds of things. And we simply launched. And this is also this musical group, Ratan Sharma. You can Google him. Beautiful chants and music.
Wow.
He insisted on, he knew Alan, and he insisted on bringing his group. He wouldn't take any money, and they had to travel with instruments and set up, and it was really beautiful. It was really a love fest. And we had leaders from the major religion traditions there in Mumbai speak about what the sacredness of life means from their tradition. So we had a Catholic priest, and we had a Swami, and we had an imam, and we had a rabbi, and we had a Buddhist monk, and we had a Parsi priest as well, I believe. So it was very simple but beautiful. That was in 2010. And shortly after that, we had our first meeting to begin to organize a bit. And I'm standing, the big man there is the great-grandson of Mahatma Gandhi, Tushar Gandhi. And Tushar was very, very supportive. And he became a board member, one of our board members when we registered in India. And that's in front of the Trident, which became my home, and I continued to go there, and they provided the accommodations and made it possible for me to be there. Any of you who've been in India know it takes time, a lot of time to get anything done, and a lot of patience, a lot of everything. And anyway, so I had to keep going back, and I would stay longer and longer. And but because of that, it paid off. The goat's on board. No, he said, this was first visit to the Cheetah Camp slum, where a group of college students, we were applying the One Life Alliance pledge to honor the sacredness of life, and so then the next step was to create a community project. So they created an education project to teach them about computer skills and math, things that that are not strong in the slum schools. They were to enrich their education, and this went on for about 3 months. These students, there are about a dozen of them, and every week they did all the work, and I would just go and be there with them. I had a lot of photos from that, but I wasn't able to access them on this. But the goat I got, and so I'm walking in there, and that's the first thing I saw. And it's one of these only in India things that some of you, I'm sure, are aware of if you've been to India, only in India. And that made me smile. These kind of things. Yeah, there he was, wearing his shirt. It was great. And on the way to the school building, there were these boys playing cricket. And they just, here comes this white woman, and they're saying, come on, come on. And I'm like, oh my God. So I pick up the cricket thing, I hold it like a baseball bat, which horrified them. No. So they taught me how to hold it properly. And that was great fun. And that's where they are in India. They're like this. They just, it's that connection. And here's more of the light, is this sort of thing. And now behind me, if you just see a little dark spot there, it's a dead rat. And as I approached this field, I looked down in horror myself. I said, oh, it's a dead rat. And that boy there in the striped shirt, he says, yes, ma'am, no problem. I mean, we can really learn something from that. Yes, ma'am, no problem. A dead rat is no problem. Especially. More of the light. This is what you see all the time there. They all celebrate each other's holidays. This was Ganesh Chaturthi. And drums are beating in the background, and everybody's just standing around, and this is the sort of thing you see. And they invite, it's about celebration and colors and dancing. And this was the Dharavi slum. We went on a Ganesh Chaturthi tour because we wanted to see all the altars they'd set up there. And they were beautiful. Yeah, and then that little voice there on his smartphone. Now, the Dharavi slum, that's an enterprising most of them actually are quite enterprising. They all have little businesses and they work and they're busy and they're making money and all kinds of things are going on. So they all got smart, they're all internet savvy, and there he is checking his email or Facebook or something. And that was one of the schools that's run by an NGO called Reality Gives, and they do the tours in the slum, and then the proceeds go to support this school, which is quality education. But they invited me to come in to give a talk on forgiveness. They wear their uniforms and sweet. Don Bosco is another school system. They're huge, all over India and Africa. And this was a peace event that they did, a peace rally, they called it, very well organized. Now, at one point in this rally, it happened spontaneously. They just stood up because I had mentioned my daughter was 13 years old. And one of the young boys stood up and said, "Let's get all the 13-year-olds up on stage." And they said, "You're not alone, ma'am. We're your children, too." Yeah. So I mean, there's tears in my eyes there along with the smiles. And then we get into the world of business because I felt that we needed to be connecting, because this is all about putting this into practice in the way we educate, the way we do business, the way we govern. So at the Trident, it's a international business hotel. So I started meeting various people and got invited to the Indian Business Group to give a talk. And I became a member. They made me an honorary member. This is the president, Vikash Mitra Singh, and he, very supportive. And in fact, he was always offering, he had a huge office complex, and we hadn't gotten big enough to really take advantage of this, but he basically offered me office space. I worked at the Trident and had that for myself, but if we get bigger and need a staff, we've got beautiful offices in the best part of town. Now, because of the business, the Indian Business Group led to the British Business Group. So I had British friends, and Prince Charles and his Lady Camilla came, and there they were, and they attended Remembrance Day service. So then we were all invited to this garden party in Pune, and he was just standing there on the grass with his cup of tea. And I said to someone, "Can we say hi?" He goes, "Yeah." So I actually had a little conversation with him. I don't have a photo of that, but he does watercolors, beautiful watercolors, and I saw them online. And so I mentioned that to him, and I said, "They really exude a beautiful feeling of peace." And he just said, "Oh, that just made my day." He was so pleased. He said, he's really quite all of these people have their everything, but he was lovely, paid very close attention, very positive. And my friend there, Nigel, has a photograph of himself with Prince Charles when Nigel was about 20 years old. The Princess Trust sponsored Project Drake, which is this project where young men and women both can get on this huge ship, and they sailed to Panama, built some things in one of the villages, and they did all this building and sailed back, and it took 9 months, and it was a huge project, life-changing project for them. Here's another one. Wow. Where would I meet our president except in Mumbai, for goodness sakes? So he came in 2011, and they had a special meeting with the staff of the Trident in Oberoi who were involved in the attacks. Michelle and he were both there. And so we each had a chance to shake hands and share what we were doing. They both were very supportive. And then he went on the rooftop to give a talk to the crowd. And then everybody, the Indians, of course, they'll just go right up. They want photos. And he was just doing photos. That would never happen here. And so I was standing next to Michelle Obama, and I said, you think I could get a photo? She goes, "Yeah, ask him." So I tapped him on the shoulder. I said, "Mr. President, can I have a photo?" Boom, puts his arm around me. And then as he was turning to leave, because I told him just two statements about what happened and why I was there. He turned around and he squeezed my hand. And that meant so much. It meant he cares, and he didn't have to do that. And to me, that was a very caring moment. Of course, I thought I was going to meet Dr. Seuss. It said Dr. Seuss at this bookshop, but there was a cat in a hat. And he's a great reminder of let's continue to have fun, don't take it all so seriously. And I had just met the president, and so I just love the contrast of that. To me.
Arm on the same shoulder.
Yeah, why not?
Excuse me. Kia, could we go back to the president? I want to take a picture.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, when they met this Oberoi and the Trident staff, one by one, it was not a quick thing. They stood in front of, they knew these people risked their lives, which they did. There's amazing stories. And they looked, held their hands, looked at them, and said, where were you? What's your story? And it went like that. And then we had a group photo taken, and it was just really very moving. Very moving. Lots of tears. This is in Nepal, and it's a surprising thing that came up. It's a South Asian youth conference. They had youth from 8 different South Asian countries come to this conference. They had hundreds of applications, and I think about 50 of them got accepted. They had to be able to speak English because they had people from Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bhutan, Indonesia, India, of course. And there they all are. And I was asked to give a workshop on building international community. So it was a lot of fun, but mainly it was more fun for me just to learn from them. And they were full of joy and to meet each other and talk to each other. And then at the end, of course, they were having parties and celebrating. They made everybody come up and sing their national anthem. And then I was the only American, and they said, you can't get out of this. And I went, because I can't sing on key. And I said, well, you have to get a YouTube video, I'll sing along, because I can't sing. So they did that. And I'll tell you, I knew all the words, which I didn't realize, and I felt patriotic. I mean, really, I was singing, and I actually sang on key with it, and I got teary-eyed. Yes, but it was so sweet, and they all did that. Everybody, it was fantastic. And then you saw like an Indian and Pakistani men. There were mostly men, a few women. So men had to dance with men, and here's Pakistani Indian youth dancing with each other. And then in Delhi, this group was amazing. And I think it must have been through Facebook or something. The woman next to me on the left, not the taller one, Avnik Kaur, contacted me, and she wanted to be involved in some way. How could she be involved? And I asked her what inspired her to share the message of peace, and she said she loved dancing. And so I said, why don't she wanted to create like a peace flash mob and do peace alerts. And she got together all these young people, and they met every week. They practiced their dance, and they would do their dance around town and parks. And so I had a chance to spend a month in Delhi. And we, on Christmas Day, this was Christmas Day in Delhi, they went to a park and they created, they had these little chalkboards and asked people to say what they were grateful for, and they did photos and posted them, and it was this amazing thing, so creative. And there they are. That was one of their events where they did their dance, and then they got interviewed on the radio, and that was a surprise thing. So the whole little their project got on the radio. They were so pleased. In fact, it was the popular radio station. And then we get to the police, because every year on the anniversary, the media comes round and they start asking the question, is Mumbai safe and secure? And they really were focusing on what had not been done. And they really are focusing on things like bulletproof vests and CCTV cameras. Where are they? Why aren't they up? And really hounding on that. And they would always ask me, do you feel safe and secure in Mumbai? Do you think Mumbai is safe and secure? And they're giving the police a rather hard time. And I really sympathize with the police, because an attack like this in a city where they didn't have resources to deal with this. They didn't even have proper weapons to deal with this. And nobody knew how many terrorists there were or where they were. They were totally caught off guard. So I always felt, and the police lost a lot of their own, so I felt a bond with them. I felt they risked their lives, and some died to protect their city. And so I thought, well, why don't we build police community trust by bringing this program into the police department? So this is the police commissioner at the time, Rakesh Maria. And I was there with some business students, and I put this little book in front of him, and I said, would you consider adding this little program to your training for police to build police community trust? It's 30 very positive attitudes and behaviors. He flips through it, and he said, we need this. We will do it. Wow. And
that's great.
And in this case, he picked up the phone right then and there, called the South Mumbai commissioner, and talks in Hindi. I heard him say, Kia Scherr, blah, 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 blah. So the next thing I know, we're, shuttled off to go meet KP, Krishna Prakash, known as KP, and said, you're going to do this. KP was told, and KP was wonderful. And it took a few months, and we had the book translated into Marathi. 2,500 copies were printed and distributed. But our first pilot group was 30 of them, and they got certificates.
Wow.
And the way we did it with them is that they all have smartphones, so they got a peace alert on their phone on WhatsApp. Day one, slow down, and a little statement. And then each day, and then once a week, we had permission to meet with them at the police headquarters to discuss their experience and how they applied it. And I said, just talk in Marathi, it's fine. People will translate, but you just shared your meeting. And it was really about them. And then a few of them could speak some English and would tell me that it made a difference for them. Because, it was just the idea that, oh, you mean I could choose to have a pause, I could choose to slow down, I could choose to be patient and make that a focus to be patient, and then I find that I was patient. You're programming yourself. Or I smiled a lot more, and boy, did that make a difference. And they had no idea of taking a deep breath and what difference that makes, and what forgiveness, silence, a lot of these things. And it helped them in their own relations, and also dealing with the abuse from their senior officers, and that's the most stressful part of their job. They also work 16-hour days under difficult conditions, as you can imagine.
Terrible pay.
Yeah, terrible pay. Anyway, so that's a highlight. And this happened earlier this year, those certificates. And I tell you, it took all 6 years for me coming for that result.
Wow.
And that was worth it. I mean, the fact that they were willing to do it, think about it. The fact they were willing to do it and they gave their hearts to it is amazing. Now the follow-up, the way to follow, I realized for this actually to continue to happen, it had to be run by locals. So I partnered with a young man who does hard skill training, and this is the soft skill aspect of it. So he'll include that, and he's already working with them. So that's how that will carry forward. And then cricket, once again. And so I'm meeting British businessmen, and one of them, and his name was Matt Greenwell, young man there on business with his family, had been there for 6 years, and his passion is cricket. And he had formed an expat cricket team, and he said, I know, why don't we challenge the Mumbai police to a cricket match, and we'll make it a cricket match for peace. And I said, well, can you make that happen? And he goes, we'll make it happen. If you're in, I'll make it happen. So he got sponsorship, and there we are at the police gymkhana. About 6 months later, I think I met Matt in February, so by October, end of October, there we are. And they're the winners. The police won, of course. And we had a lunch afterward.
That's wonderful.
Oh, we have a great video, Cricket Match for Peace, on YouTube, 4 minutes. I highly recommend it. And that has it's a photo story with great music. And then here's a business group. This is Pocket App. It's an Indian company. Well, it's a UK company. And this is their technical people. The parent company's in London. And they create digital apps for businesses, high-end. And this is their team. And there's various teams within the big team. And so I met with the HR manager who said, yes, this would be valuable. So again, we're using the pocketbook. They purchased about 50 copies of the book. And in this case, she would send them an email every day. And once a week, I was there for half a day meeting with each of the teams to go over their experience. And it made a great difference. The idea for business was to increase productivity. Because when you focus on positive and you create those positive mindsets and you're getting along better, you are going to be more productive. Of course you are. You'll be happier. Things are flowing more smoothly. So we proved that it can work in business. This was a HR conference. I was just simply invited to speak, and this was one of my trips over because they paid for me to come to Delhi to speak at their conference, and they asked if they could print 400 copies of the book to put in their gift packs. So of course, I agreed to that. And then I just extended my dates, and then I was able to do all this work in Delhi and Mumbai, and that's one of the ways that my travel got supported for that trip. That was in 2013. And Letter to the Terrorist. This is a short film that's based on a letter that I wrote to the terrorists, which I'll read to you at the end. Because one of the questions that I would be asked in news conferences is, if you met the terrorists face to face, what would you say to a terrorist? And really at the beginning, I had no idea. And I said, well, I'd probably cry. I'd be at a loss for words. But then a couple of years later, I thought, I think I'd have a lot to say to a terrorist. I think I would want to tell that terrorist what's going on now in response to their actions, and how many more people, hundreds more people than, I guess 170 people were killed in that attack. But we have tons more people are now gathered around another kind of a message as a result of that. And that's what the letter is about, and because that's who human beings really are. This is the cab driver I used a lot, whose name is Samir. He's parked outside the hotel, and the blue cab drivers are notorious for ripping people off. Because there's a lot of rich people who go to these business hotels, and it might be a 30 rupee drive, and they'll say 100 rupees, and people just pay whatever. Airport, they'll just jack it up a lot, because they can. And I couldn't get a black cab that day, and so I said, will you use the meter? I said, will you just use the meter, and it was when I was working at St. Andrews across town. And he knew the whole story, and he just said, anything for you, man, you just pay whatever you want. And he did that every time. He would never tell me a price. But I just figured out what it probably was for an air-conditioned blue cab and would give him a fair amount. But that was Samir, and he's the one who took me to Cheetah. He knew where everything was, so he could take me to Cheetah Camp, which was an hour away, wait there all day, and drive me back. He was amazing. And he's from a village with 3,000 people, so I got to learn something about their lives, because when he got married, 3,000 people came to his wedding. And his brother was getting married, and now he's the elder, and he had to go back to the village to take care of everything, because he said 3,000 people will be there. And I thought, how do you feed 3,000 people? Samir is Muslim. And a great example of the interconnectedness, I would sometimes ask him, were you around during the riots? What was going on? Oh, yes, ma'am. We have Hindu neighbors. We guarded each other's doors. And during the Ganesh Chaturthi, that whole week, he dropped me off. He goes, I'm going off to the temple now. It's time for Arti. I said, Arti? You're Muslim. He goes, yes, ma'am. I want the blessings. So they did everything. And at Christmas, they all wear Santa hats. You'll see Santa hats everywhere. The woman that was next to me, the Indian woman in the police picture, Niru, she takes a bus to and fro because she's in a north suburb. And her entire bus had a Christmas party. And they all put on red, and they wore Santa hats, and they brought food, and they sang songs on the bus. Yeah. And then TabCab. TabCab is a cab company, and one of my team members had the idea to introduce the Pocketbook of Peace to see if they would be willing to spread the message of peace on their cabs for the anniversary. And they created, I think, 10 of their cabs. They put a picture of the Buddha, Mahatma Gandhi with quotes, and now their slogan is TabCab is your peace cab. And that's still the case at the Mumbai airport. You'll see TabCab is your peace cab. So there we are launching that, and they all took the pledge for peace. In Mexico, I just wanted to show you that we had a group of Mexican people come to retreat at Synchronicity, and they really got interested in all of this, and they're working in schools. Ileana, the one in the foreground there, she had this translated to Spanish. They're creating a lifefulness program, and they created guided meditations based on the statements of intention here, both in English and Spanish. They're amazing. Mexicans work very quickly. They really, I'm really impressed with their work, and they're very enthusiastic. Not only that, they got this on the radio, like at least 3 times, where the disc jockey would read each day, read out the day, whatever the day was. We have sharing, and read in Spanish, of course, and each day during rush hour traffic. And they had people take pledges and post on Facebook, and they had like 5,000 people say that they were following this. And then they created a new cover for their Lifefulness. That's the English cover. And then somehow or other, I got an email from the assistant commissioner to the LA World Airport Police, and they were doing a women's empowerment conference at the LA World Airport, and I was in the States, and so I thought, what a great opportunity to share with some US police what I had done with the Mumbai police and what was possible. And so I attended it was wonderful. The chief of police is a male, and the assistant chief was female. Anyway, he was there the whole day with his wife. That again, I was very impressed with the level of integrity that I saw, the level of heart and compassion in everything. They had all the speakers besides me were police, either men or women, mostly women. Very impressive. So there's lots more to do there, but like I say, I just kind of was flitting in and out of these places, but it showed me something wonderful about the police here that's very positive, that we don't often get to see in the news. Charlottesville has a Forgiveness Day, and I don't know if you're aware of this. It was proposed, I think it's April 5th or sometime in early April, and this is the mayor of Charlottesville, and I don't remember his name. Yes, anyway, lovely man. And there we were with the certificate inaugurating. This was about 2 or 3 years ago. And there was a city council, and they all approved it, and they did it the right way. And this is just to show that I celebrated my 60th birthday this year in March, and I decided with some friends, Stacy and Martin from Germany and Nigel from the UK, and we're in the Oberoi restaurant. And I sometimes go there purposely because I refuse to leave their memory lying on the floor of the restaurant. That's not who they are. That's not what they left behind. What they left behind was love, light, joy, peace, the possibility for greater peace because of the story and the opportunities that I have had to share about that. So it's a chance to celebrate life. And it's not always easy, but the same staff is still there. And so it becomes this incredibly heartwarming experience to be there. It took a couple of years. I didn't even go near the restaurant, but now I do go. It's always a tender time, but it's a beautiful time. It's a time of love. I went there on International Day of Peace, and they brought me a cake, Peace Day cake. They'll do these things, and and over there, there's a piano in the background, and they're playing, and that's the light. That is the light. But it took going to that painful place to be able to have this experience there, which is so powerful. It feels like more than this body can hold, and expands me beyond. This is Alan. This picture showed up like, I don't know, must have been on my computer or my phone, and they're on a ferry on their way to Elephanta Island, which has these ancient caves with Buddha and carvings, and I don't know, somehow I got somebody sent me the photo, and so now I keep it there, and every once in a while I say, okay, Alan, you're just reminding me, don't take it all so seriously, let's remember to laugh. And today is Martin Luther King Day. And he's right. It's love that will drive us forward, and love will heal if we're open to it. Staying open to it. And keep showing what that looks like. Each of us is the contribution we can make. Because I tell you, it makes a difference. I've seen it over and over and over again. Really, it makes such a difference. And I also found out that Martin Luther King had a very strong connection to Mahatma Gandhi. And he visited Mahatma Gandhi's home. And I had a chance to tour Mani Bhavan because I knew Scherr Gandhi. His father, Arun Gandhi, was with him. And we went through the house, and Arun Gandhi told me that when Martin Luther King visited there, he wanted to sleep in the little room, the bedroom, on the bed. And they got special permission for him to do that. And he did that. And that's where he got his inspiration for the Civil Rights Movement. He credits the inspiration, download from Mahatma Gandhi. Yeah, that brought a whole new depth to everything. And once again, the connection. How close we all are, really. How close we are. That's what I found out. The closeness is the light. To be aware of the connection. And really that's what the letter to the terrorists is about. And that's what I will conclude with, and then we can chat. Last year when I was visiting one of my Mexican friends, and I revised the letter slightly because it was originally directed directly to Ajmal Kasab. But I realized I wanted to send out a letter to all terrorists. Terrorism exists in many forms, as we know, and certainly in the form of racism, certainly in the form of slavery, many forms. So this is a letter to terrorists from the citizens of the world. Dear fellow human being, my name is Scherr, and I was the wife and mother of 2 Americans who were killed in the Mumbai terrorist attack of 26/11/2008. They were in the restaurant of the Oberoi Hotel when your team members stormed in, shooting everyone in sight. My husband was shot at the back of the head and died instantly. My daughter was shot multiple times and bled to death. She was 13 years old. Given this reality, you may wonder, why have I used the term dear to address this letter? That is what this letter is about, and at the end you will understand. To begin with, we have some things in common with the so-called terrorist. We exist at opposite extremes of this spectrum of life, but yet we are forever connected by the fact that we are human beings sharing life on this planet. Life as I knew it ended when my husband and daughter were killed. Just like that, a family is no more, and so a part of me died along with them. I am no longer the wife and mother of Alan and Naomi Scherr. Your life is likely to end in a terrorist attack. There was one lone surviving terrorist in the Mumbai attack. His colleagues were each killed one by one, but he survived. He survived, but life as he knew it too had ended. He was no longer the terrorist on jihad, as he sat alone each day in his jail cell awaiting execution. His identity as a terrorist had been stripped away, as was my identity as wife and mother. A terrorist attack creates a big crack in the fabric of humanity. But the bigger the crack, the more light gets in, and that is why I am more alive than ever before. This is the light of love. Love never dies. Who do you think you killed? Who died? You may have destroyed many individual lives for which you need to be held accountable, but the sacred life that resides in each of us can never be destroyed, no matter how big and powerful your weapons. We feel compassion for the human beings we see on the TV that are so shrouded in darkness they have forgotten who they are and are capable of destroying a fellow human being. If living with love and compassion becomes our committed focus, who knows how many lives may be uplifted, nourished, and even saved. Do you realize you have the power to save lives if you speak the truth? Do you know that the life that empowers you empowers each and every one of us? Do you know that your life essence is as sacred as every form of life on this planet? And do you know that as a response to your destructive actions, people of all religions and cultures are joining together around the world to engage in a new conversation, one that will restore balance, increase peace as we honor our shared humanity. I'm here to tell you about that. Like it or not, we're all in this together. A Muslim friend told me that your Holy Quran states, if you kill one human, you kill them all. And as Martin Luther King, a leader of the American Civil Rights Movement, said, we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Love is the core ingredient to this human life. Love is our greatest natural resource. There is no end to love unless we close the door to our hearts. I wrote this letter to keep the door to my heart open and to share this love with all of humanity so that more hearts will open. With love coming forth in great abundance, peace will prevail. Let this be our legacy as a human race. Sincerely, Scherr and friends.